I literally came home and told my parents. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go to EMT school," and they were, they didn't even know what the acronym stood for. And they're like,
Right.
"Okay." I was like, and the other thing too was, I was like, it's only going to be for a semester or maybe a year. Yeah,
And it was,
that woman was I did the EJ on her.
did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked at her. I go, "This is gonna hurt."
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Gettin10-8. And I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. I've been focusing on some other stuff here on YouTube. I've been doing a bunch of sailing videos and stuff like that. And the plan is I am going to bring out one of these podcasts once a month. Because let's face it, y'all aren't wanting to come in here every week for just a podcast. This is something that we can space out, and it lets me line up these great guests, like the one I have just up above me right now, Patrick Pianezza, the co-writer of Code 3, the movie, and we will talk about that movie, but I want to get to know Patrick as a person, as a paramedic, and we'll get into the movie, I'm sure, but we kind of talked about where you worked before and how you moved from the Midwest over to the East Coast working when you were in school. Now you're in California and you have your registry again, correct?
I do. I am a nationally registered paramedic.
All right. Well, good on you. You're better than me. Of course, I've got a few more years on since I did it. Sodium bicarb was a pretty much a first line drug in our algorithms back in the day.
I still remember bertilium being in the algorithm back in
Bertil
the day.
Gotta love bertilium tosylate and percanamide.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, procainamide. I almost forgot about that one.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
some of I'm helping one of my neighbors is going to paramedic school, and he goes, "Oh, how long ago did you do it?" And I told him, I said, "You ever heard of bertilium?" And he said, "No." I go, "That's how old I am."
Well, that I sat down with Vic one time and we started writing down all the drugs that we carried, and we came up with about 35 different drugs. And I'm sure we left some out, like terbutaline or breathine. That was some monkey medicine that we were doing back in the day. But what drew you? I know for me, I know for Vic Stewart, we're like I said, we're older than you. We remember every Friday night watching Emergency, Johnny and Roy, when it was on TV in '73 and '74. We were watching that stuff. That was a big influence on us. We were kids and we thought, oh man, that's a cool way to make a living. You came up behind us. When did you know that emergency medicine was something you were interested in, and what made you say, "Hey, I think I want to go to be a paramedic"? Was it a show? What was it? What was the influence?
I'd love to tell you that there was some romantic story that I knew I wanted to be a fireman when I was 5, and that is not the case. I completely got into this field of work by accident. It wasn't I didn't, at least as far as I can remember, there wasn't any major shows on TV that were like, "Oh my God, that's what I want to do." I mean, ER was a thing when I was coming up, and but that wasn't at that point. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. So the whole like I want to be a fireman, no, like from the age of 6, I was one of those kids who had a really great pediatrician, and I really liked him, and I was like, I want to do what you do when I grow up.
Yeah.
Um, and so ever since like I was 6 or 7 years old, I was like, I'm gonna go be a doctor. I had never thought about EMS or fire service, nothing like that. Just, gonna be a doctor. And then what happened in reality was we were on vacation, and we came back. And when I came back, the school that I was going to had received some grant funding that was like, they were like number 2 on the grant. They weren't expecting it, but all of a sudden they had this windfall. But I guess according to the what the grant said. They had to spend the money like that year. And so this
Start a
is, I mean,
paramedic
not,
program.
oh no, this is during when I was getting my associate's degree. Again, I was
Oh,
not
okay.
in EMS yet. I think I just finished my first semester of community college. So anyway, so the school had received this money, and this isn't before the internet. I'm not that old, but it was before like email was widely used in the. So I had no idea. So I show up to school, and I was a biology major, and I had been kicked out of all of my biology classes because the school had used this money to redo their science building, to update their labs or whatever, their science labs. And so I go run into the registrar's office, and I was like, "Hey, I need to be a full time student to keep my health insurance. Like,
Student loans and
what's available at
insurance.
this point?" And classes had started, so that's the other thing too. So it's not like we're not talking like a week before. Like it's Monday, day of school starting, and I'm over here trying to furiously figure out how do I stay full time. And this is back when the course catalogs were on paper,
Right.
and she basically threw the book at me, and she was like, "Happy hunting, good luck." So I start looking through, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the right hand corner that just said credit hours, and it said 8. And I was like, perfect, that's exactly what I need. And I looked over, and it said EMT, and I was like, can I take that class? And I go, she looks into it, she's like, yeah, there's an open seat. And that class didn't start, I think it was like a Tuesday Thursday class or something. um, and so I took it, and that is how I got into EMS. I got into EMS. My whole thought process was number one, it'll look good on a med school resume, and number two, if something were to happen, I would be useful, and that was the absolute most naive way to get into EMS. And there was no fanfare there. I literally came home and told my parents, I was like, hey, I'm going to go to EMT school. And they didn't even know what the acronym stood for. And they're like,
Right.
okay. I was like, and the other thing too was I was like, it's only going to be for a semester or maybe a year, because that's when the renovations were supposed to be completed. And I was like, it's not going to derail me. I go, it's going to look good. It'll be fine. Um, and that's how I got in. It was that simple. And I think, one of the only people that was college aged in my EMT class. Most of them were firefighters and stuff that were working in the city. And
So you
so.
weren't even on campus in this class. You were like me. You were in a separate.
Mhm.
You were in a classroom setting. My EMT school was at the highway patrol office.
Ours was in a vocation. So we had the campus for community college, and then they had a vocational campus where they taught like welding and stuff like that. And our EMT class was catty corner to the welding classroom.
Okay, I got you. That's wild. So you
Yeah,
got college credits for taking the EMT class.
I did. Yeah, yeah.
See,
The
that
funny thing
didn't
though is
work
it
for
didn't count,
us.
but it didn't count towards my degree. So
Okay.
I have a certificate of completion for paramedic school, for paramedic studies, and then I have an associate's degree for biology, which is why it took me an extra year to graduate from community college, because the hours, all of the credit I got for EMT intermediate and paramedic class didn't count towards academia. It counted towards a vocational
Right,
certificate.
right, right. So, so when you got your EMT, did you get EMT basic or did you get EMT ambulance?
Basic.
Okay. When I came up, it was you were either EMT, nationally registered EMT, which was just the round patch that said National Registered EMT,
Hmm.
and then got if you were working for an ambulance service or working for a fire department, that meant you were paid as an EMT. You had the rocker on the bottom that said ambulance under it. So when I came up, it was EMTA, EMTI, EMTP.
Yeah, for us it
And,
was basic, intermediate, paramedic, and I never challenged. So in Illinois, you didn't have to get national registry; you just had to
right,
pass the state exam. And so I never challenged registry for basic or intermediate. I challenged national registry when I got my paramedic because I knew I was leaving Illinois. Um, but I was only I had an Illinois basic, and I had an Illinois intermediate card, and I had an Illinois paramedic card. But then I took the extra step and took the national registry for my paramedic.
So when you moved over to the Carolinas, you were set.
Oh yeah, they absolutely just they did reciprocity. I do a background check, and I can't remember the minutia, but it was like you go get fingerprinted and something else, and make sure you didn't have any warrants against you or child support. And then they
Right.
basically took my registry card and handed me a South Carolina one.
Now we didn't get fingerprinted when I got my EMT ambulance. Mind you, this is 1985. This has been a minute ago. And I went to school. I got my paramedic at University of Iowa
Hmm.
Hospital and Clinics, which was an 11-week program then. And you'd go in and you'd get all 550, however many hours of didactic it was in that 11 weeks.
Wow.
And it was 5 days a week, and it was like can to can't. We were there at 8 and we were leaving at 5. And we were in paramedic school all day, Monday through Friday. And now they broke it up with some exercises and stuff like that. We had some pretty interesting physical agility tests. They took us and look, let me tell you something. Y'all up there in the Midwest, y'all take basketball way more serious than we do down here. We're all football down here. But y'all's basketball stadium at University of Iowa, the basketball coliseum was as big as our football stadium. And our physical agility was you get there and you're up on this top rung and they'd send us down all the stairs carrying a backboard with a monitor and a kit and a bottle of oxygen strapped to it. And you and a partner, y'all had to go downstairs with this backboard and kit and all that stuff. Then they put a Rescue Randy on there and you'd strap him on there.
Oh jeez.
Then we had to carry him back up to the top of the Coliseum.
Oh
When we
man.
when we got up there and put him down, there was a CPR, a recorder Annie, the one that
Hmm.
recorded if you were doing good compressions and you're breathing right. We had to do 20 minutes of CPR
Oh
on this
God.
mannequin. Now, I got up there and immediately figured out the recorder Annie is looking at your tidal volume, your blowing and all this. I immediately blew that pipe off of that mannequin. Whew! I blew it off. So it wasn't recording that. So we could take our time and work around it. It was recording our compressions. We had to have those jokers just right.
That's
So yeah,
amazing.
that was the physical agility. And then they had runners that were running the Rescue Randys back down. They had like 7 of those Rescue Randys. And they were running those back down and bringing the kits and stuff back up for the next crew that was going. It was a round robin. It was
We didn't have to
fun.
do anything like that. I didn't have to do anything quite like that until the fire academy. But as part of like my regular paramedic school, no, it was all didactic and the dummies and the scenarios, but nothing like
I
that.
I I think we had a bunch of sadists for instructors because they did like you did with Rain and Amy. They put them in the back. They put us in the back of a damn modular ambulance, but the windows were blacked out.
Okay.
And this was on our stick day. We had a stick day every Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was Thursday, where we were sticking each other. We were doing our
Oh
IV
jeez.
therapy. Well, towards the end of class, they put us in the back of that ambulance, and we were sticking each other while they were driving around. And for shits and giggles, with the windows taped up, they shut the power off in the box, so we had no lights.
God.
So you got a mini mag light out, you're holding in your mouth, trying to start this IV on each other. And
Oh,
when I was cocky when I was in the classroom, I'm like, look, I'm looking around, I'm looking for that one student. Oh yeah, there she is. She's got real fair skin. She's those vein. I can't see a vein anywhere on her. That's who I want to be my pincushion. because I figured as a paramedic, I'm not going to have easy sticks.
Yeah.
Most other people were coming up to me because, I mean, when I pumped that up, I've pumped up a cephalus you can see right here on this camera. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I have ropes, so I was easy to hit. Everybody was wanting to come for me, but I was wanting to get that tough stick when I was in school.
Yeah, I
Man,
was lucky because I was working in the hospital, and I was working night shift. So after I'd been working there for what I was going through paramedic school, so it had to have been over a year, maybe a year and a half by the time I was getting on with paramedic school to the point where we were doing drugs and IVs. And so the best part about working night shift was that, there wasn't a whole lot of supervisors around, and the nurses, you'd be like, "Hey, I need some practice." And they'd be like, "Yeah," because I was working as a tech. They were like, "Yeah, go ahead, start a line on this person." And so I had arguably much better lighting, but I got a lot of practice doing that with real patients.
Yep. All right, as a paramedic, I know, what is the strangest place you've ever had to start an IV? What,
Like on the body
on a
or
scene, on a scene, where have you had to start an IV that most nurses would be going, you did what?
I mean, hanging upside down in a car accident. That was one of them. Car was on its hood, and the problem was that the patient was pinned in, and so we had to wait for fire. Well, fire department was there, but they had to
That's you.
roll. Yeah, they had to roll the car off of this patient, which was interesting. You're kind of doing this, and then you're trying to remember. Okay, so the bevel, she's upside down, and her arm's going this way, so I got to start it that way.
Long as you can see, long as you can
Yeah,
see the bevel when you go to stick, you're gonna be fine.
yeah, that was a fun one. I had one. I had one in a processing plant, which wasn't heroic or anything, but it was definitely like there's a lot of dead carcasses floating around you, and you're like, I hope this is going to be sterile enough.
Yeah.
um,
Aseptic's all we're after. You're in the field. Aseptic. You ain't gonna get sterile. You're just gonna get
yeah,
aseptic. As clean as
um,
we can get.
but yeah, I'd say those are probably the more unique places where I've had to start a line.
I've been laying on my belly on the hood where the windshield's gone. The patients, we're waiting on the fire department to get them out, and I've gone in, laid on my belly, and started the IV on the driver that's pinned behind the wheel. I've done that. I only did two external jugs in my whole time out there,
Yeah,
and it
that
was.
that woman was I did the EJ on her.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked at her. I go, this is gonna hurt.
Yep. Yep.
But she was so
I
pinned in that there was no way to do anything else. And I didn't know what the rest of her injuries were. And that was before
Right.
IOs were accessible for adults. We had IOs for peds, but
I IOs were coming in as I was offshore when IOs came in. So I I didn't have any peds out there on offshore facilities.
right.
So I had to do it for my refresher class, but no, I mean this wasn't anything I've never done an IO. But they're doing them on adults now. I've seen that in
Regularly.
yeah, I've started looking at something Mike Pontius put me on called The Pit. I don't know. Have you ever watched
The
that on
TV show?
HBO? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that show. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, season one, that guy started an IO on a conscious and awake
Yeah.
patient. He said, everybody gets an IO. They don't ever do that again. I'm sorry. We were supposed to record this last week, and I sounded like death on a cracker. I can still hear that I'm nasally sounding, but I'm passable to do this interview with you, Pat. I hope you don't mind that you're
No, not at
getting a.
all.
So, and I got to tell you, for a writer, you're a hell of a paramedic, from what I understand.
Well, thanks. I don't know who you talk to, but you should probably check your sources on that.
So, we said we would talk a little bit about the movie, and the last time I had you on, the movie was all buy it on Amazon or buy it on Apple TV at that point in time. Since it has moved to a big platform, tell everybody where they can get it on a platform now.
It still is on Apple and Amazon to rent or buy. You can get physical DVDs on Amazon, but we are streaming on Hulu right now. So
There you go.
if you have a subscription to Hulu, you can. Well, it's not free; you're paying for the subscription, but it's available on Hulu.
Now, I'm not familiar with Hulu at all. I've got the Amazon,
Hmm.
and but like if you watch one of their movies that's on the streaming for Amazon, they're putting commercials in them now. If you don't pay the extra special premium,
Yeah,
is Hulu's not like that, are they?
it is. It depends on what tier you if you buy an ad supported tier or whether you're paying for no ads.
Okay. Yeah, I'm paying for Amazon. Oh, that's not enough. You got to pay a little bit more if you want to get rid of those ads. But that's today's info technology. It's if you're if you're either getting ads shown to you, and if you aren't getting ads shown to you, your information's getting uh, sold. So you are the product at that point.
And unfortunately, that seems to be the case.
So, doing good on Hulu. And how does that work on that end? Did Hulu just buy the rights out from you? Is that the deal? Or is it the
Well, I
more
mean,
people that
so
watch it, the better it is?
both. So some semantics here. They didn't buy it from me. They bought it from a company called Ara Entertainment. Jesus, I don't know why that took so hard. Why it was so hard to pull out of my brain. Ara bought the rights to distribute the film, and so they
Okay.
were the ones who put it on Apple and Amazon for a period of time, and then they sold it to Hulu for another period of time. I think it's a year. Um, and then they'll revisit to see if somebody else wants to buy it or if it's going to stay on Hulu, whatever. But yeah, so I sold just to kind of parse this out for the audience that cares, which I'm sure is like one person who's barely still awake. Um, I sold my rights to Wayfarer Theater. So Wayfarer Studios owns Code 3. They own all of the IP around Code 3 as well as uh, the movie. They sold the ability to sell that film to streaming and international and all that stuff to Ara. Ara took that and then Ara made the deal to sell it to Hulu for a certain period of time.
Okay. Now,
But yes,
and
the more people who watch it, the better. So that's always the case.
so here's where I'm going. You scratched the surface. You did basically what MASH did in 1971 in movie theaters, and then it ended up being a series that became a television show and became a syndicated one of the longest running syndicated shows out there. So is there a possibility that, or is there any interest from anybody to possibly put together a series? Because with your network, you've bounced around. Surely, I've seen you've been on other paramedic podcasts, other EMS podcasts. With the networking that you've done, you all of those calls were your calls, but
Yeah.
you've got partners that you used to work with that can tell you calls. You've got this network of paramedics that you've met now that all have calls. You could fill up a few seasons probably with an ambulance crew.
Yeah, we would love nothing more than to do that. And to be abundantly clear, I that's something that we talked about since day one. The director, Chris Leone, he's in. My brother is a producer. He's in. We've built kind of a pitch deck to do that. Um, and depending on how far you want to get into how the sausage is made in Hollywood, I can tell you, I can shed you some light there. But also, Rainn Wilson wants to do that. So does Lil Rel Howery. So there's no lack of people who want to do it. It's right now, like anything, the hardest things is a studio and finding money, because Wayfair is a movie theater, a movie studio. They're not a syndication or a television
Right.
studio. So it's pitching it to a Netflix, a Hulu, a somebody, a CBS, Fox, somebody who wants to create this, or an HBO.
Now,
Um,
is Amazon? I know Netflix is doing their own productions. Does Amazon do their own productions, or do they buy out other people's stuff?
they do both.
Okay,
Like I think the Boys is one of theirs, is an Amazon original, Fallout, stuff like that. So they do their own. But the other thing is, it's eyeballs. So the Pit works because it's a medical drama and everybody loves medical dramas. Um, I think the fear is that EMS is such a niche thing that they're worried that it's not going to have as big a draw, even though that we've completely proven them wrong. Like we've performed quite well. But it's
right.
just a matter of it's a matter of getting convincing the people that have quite literally the millions of dollars it takes to make a show.
Well, and you know, I'm glad to hear that you say that Rain would be interested in moving across. Like when I told you about MASH, I think the only person that came from the movie and ended up in the actual series was Radar.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
Radar was the only one that made it from the movie into the series, and then other Alan Alda wasn't in the movie. He that was oh Elliot Gould,
yeah.
or was Elliot Gould Trapper John?
I don't
Yes,
know. I'd have to look it up.
yeah. Don Sutherland was was Hawkeye.
That's right.
Did you ever watch Emergency Rescue 51?
I'd seen not religiously, so I couldn't quote the show, but I've seen episodes of it and I
Yep.
enjoyed it. There's the funniest thing to me was the comments that I get that are like, "We're the most accurate EMS movie since Emergency," and one of the things is that's both. And that I think is funny and sad is that EMS hasn't changed that much,
Mm-hmm.
even in the 30 or 40 years since Emergency came out.
Well,
Um,
anatomy hasn't changed that much. The
that's
equipment,
that's also true.
yeah, the equipment has changed. We had before cell phones were a thing. We had StateNet VHF radio, and we had the RTSS, or radio telephone switching system,
Hmm.
which was basically you were putting a phone call over VHF. And the old cell phones came in little bags like this.
The bricks, yeah.
Yeah, the RTSS looked like it came in a suitcase, and you opened it up. And during Emergency 51, you'd see that. That's what they were plugging the EKG in so they could shoot the strip to
Hmm.
Rampart General, so the doctor could be looking at the strip along with them. So, but later they said no, these guys can read EKGs. Just like anybody else, you can teach somebody to read an EKG. Funny, my son going through nursing program, he said, "Dad, we're starting on cardiology." I said, "Now you're talking, you're right up my wheelhouse." But they aren't teaching them much of anything on cardiology. I said, "I
Really?
guess y'all are just counting on the doc to do everything, and y'all just handing folks stuff." I said, "That's why they all call us ambulance drivers, but we always call the nurses doctors helpers."
To be clear, Patrick Pianezza did not say that.
No, no, Rob Doherty did. It's okay. I'm sending my son to school to be one of them. So, but he would need to be in a hospital or a clinical type setting. I don't think it takes a special kind of person, Patrick, to be able to walk in, see humanity at its worst in its own element, and be able to do a medical. This is what I need to get done. This, and this, packaged and transported in, and you delivered them all sealed up. And oh, here's your patient with an IV started. They used to make us draw blood, but then they quit doing that because they weren't taking. They said, "Well, we didn't know how to draw blood." Yeah, I mean, it takes a to me it takes a special kind of person. you've got to figure out how you're going to handle that guy walking around with the stick in his eye.
Yeah.
And
And his
and
drunk buddies that have guns and knives and everything else.
absolutely, absolutely. And there are times where shots have rang out, not at me, but pretty adjacent to us when we were in working calls. I I'd love to see if you get your series going, you had somebody getting shot at in your series, Rain getting shot at, but I'd like to see him treat a gunshot wound. I'd like to see somebody treating a stab wound. I'd like to see somebody treating that. Well, you kind of covered the impaled object in the eye.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Oh, no. One of the things that we talked about, we considered about doing the movie before that became like the very first scene. What I wanted to do, one of the stories I told Chris was, especially in deep South Carolina, first thing you do is you knock on the door and they say, I'm on the couch or whatever. First thing you do is you open the door and then you look behind the door jamb, you grab the shotgun and you put it on the porch before you go in the house. And he was like, that absolutely can't be real. And I go, do you want to know how many guns I've pulled out of right behind the front door in South Carolina? He goes, no. And I said, all right, then. So I want to put that, if we get a TV series, that's one of the first things I want to put in.
That would be good, but down here in the South, a lot of times we knew it. We wouldn't have pulled that weapon out and put it on the front porch, but I have pulled it out. If it was a breakdown, I'd breach it.
Oh yeah, you clear the weapon as well. Yeah,
I'd,
yeah.
I'd clear the weapon and just leave it up against the door. But I mean, I've gone in and they started doing all those dang questions when you go to the doctor's office back when Obama was president, and it says, "Do you have any guns at the house?" And my doctor said, "I got to go through these questions. Do you have any guns at your house?" I said, "Doc, I got guns in this office." so so she was my neighbor though. She knew me, but she
Yeah,
was my
yeah.
doctor. She laughed at that, but yeah, down here in the South, it's pretty. You just assume every patient you have. I would ask them, do you have it on you, and if so, where is it? Let's move it out
Yep.
over to here. You don't need it now. We got you.
Yeah, especially in the cars. That's what I would always do because one of the first times I pulled a patient out of the car, thump. Was, oh, hey, we need to. You can't have that right now.
Yeah, yeah. We aren't putting that in the back of my ambulance, but um, we would if it was in a motor vehicle accident. There's going to be weapons in there. You ask them where it is, so the law enforcement, when they're on the scene, can take control of that. It's going to go with law enforcement. They'll get it back to you after all this is over with.
Yeah,
Um,
semi trucks too had at least every semi truck I've been into had at least two or three of them.
really, see, I
Oh
I
yeah.
never when if we got called to a semi, usually because of the size of the damn vehicle, it was a log truck here from timber hauling, and it was somebody that tried to zip across a road, and that log truck with all the weight of those logs, he can't stop like they're thinking he can. They were always okay in the cab of that truck, walking around the truck, trying to help the patient that I was coming to work on.
Oh
So,
yeah. Sorry, I should rephrase that. Most of the time, I'm talking about truckers having chest pain and stuff like that. Um,
got you, got you.
But I have, to your point, I mean, yes, car versus semi, the semi always wins. Full stop.
Yep.
But I have had one call that was gnarly. Two semi trucks playing chicken on a highway, and they both lost. It was insane. Like you come up on this wreck, and you're just like, it looks like Armageddon. Because I mean, two fully loaded semis kind of did this on the highway, and it was a 2 lane highway. Somebody fell asleep. I don't know, but it was the people involved were not successful in surviving.
No, not with two semis heading into each other. That's two titans.
Yeah.
But it's now. I have the distinct honor of being able to say I have slept through a train wreck.
Oh well.
The station in Biloxi, Mississippi, I mean, was literally right out the 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 front of the station was right on the road. So you're hearing all this. Back where the TV room was and where we'd write our reports and all this stuff in the kitchen, right behind that, I mean, when I say right behind it, I mean 10 yards,
Hmm.
30 foot from the edge of the building, is the railroad track, the CTX railroad track running along the coast of Mississippi. And the road that ran right next to us, a train hit a car at that crossing right behind the station. So, on a train wreck, you get 10-8 for a train wreck. Where you hit the car isn't where you're going. You're going
Right.
the mile and a
50
half
yards
down the
down.
track
Yeah.
before it stopped to get. And I get the call. We had been running like crazy. I think this was my second day. I worked a shift over. This was back when we were working 24/48s. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, the phone's ringing off the hook, and I'm wore out. I answer the phone. What? And the dispatcher goes, "You need to get 10-8 for that train wreck." I said, "What damn train wreck?" And she said, "You didn't hear that?" I said, "Hear what?" She said, "Rob, a train just hit a car behind the station. It's about a mile and a half down the tracks." You need to... So we get 10-8 and run down the road, and you're looking for, all right, I don't see the cars anymore. Circle back around, bam, there's where the car in the front of the train is going to be. Yeah,
I've worked a
there's
couple of
just,
them, but I was on standby for a train derailment. I never got sent, thankfully, but there was a
ooh, you
train
don't want to mess with
derailment
the chemicals
with
there.
yeah, chlorine. It was a chlorine leak. Um, I never got sent to it, but I was on standby for I think 24 hours for it. But luckily, um, local fire was able to manage the hazard themselves without. But we had sent that our county had sent a couple of trucks down, but only like two, and then I was next up on the roster, and we just thankfully never got called to it.
So, well, let me ask you this: you've kind of said that yes, y'all'd like to do something like that. I know it took 10 years to get Code 3 from a project that you did in college to being what we saw on the screen. Is that a fair assessment? 10 years.
Hmm. Yeah.
Are you starting to compile, or do you have some left over from when you were writing Code 3? Do you have the stories ready to go if somebody says, "Hey, I just won Mega Millions, let's start making this"?
No, oh no, we've got it all. I mean, again, some of the how the sausage gets made. Chris, my brother, and we've got a whole template of the first 10 episodes. Like we already know,
Oh,
we know the story arcs, we know the character arcs, we don't have all of the EMS calls, but that at that point, the EMS calls are going to be filler based
yeah,
on what the characters are doing. So yeah, we've got
yeah.
all that stuff.
Plug it in:
Which,
trauma, medical, trauma,
mhm.
pediatric, psychiatric. Yeah,
Yeah. And plus, there's enough stuff where it's not, there's going to be some repetition. Like you're always going to have a respiratory distress, you're always going to have a chest
yeah,
painer. But like, you can throw in some zany stuff, but you can't rely on it because then it just becomes gimmicky. Like even when you watch The Pit, like the majority of those patients have belly pain or they start out with
yeah.
some sort of respiratory.
Right. And the teaching moments that's going on in the hospital. They say it's a teaching hospital. That's so they can explain what the hell they're doing with all this stuff.
Exactly.
So you're always going to have. Randy is going to have to be the reluctant preceptor from now on. You do realize that.
Yeah,
It
for
it may
sure.
not be. He may be delivering patients to Doctor Carrera, or you know what I'm saying. But
Hmm.
oh, and she needs to be back in there as a doctor.
I would love nothing more than to bring her back.
Having put Rob Riggle, send him to surgery. so he could just come down and not be so stressed. But yeah,
I wanted
man,
that to come back too. I need her as Shanice all day, every day.
oh yeah, she she was great. She was great and realistic. Of hey, you're a burnout medic. Yeah, you can't quit today. You have to finish this out. She said she'd be one of those. You can't quit. You got to call. Get 10
Yeah.
8. So yeah, that movie. I mean, I goon over it every time I have you on the show. But I mean, y'all did just such a great job at representing EMS. And I mean, I've said it on here, but I've also said it on sites throughout Facebook and Reddit, anywhere anybody would listen to me. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, every little bit helps, right? Like we know we did something good, and thankfully the EMS community, for the most part, has really glommed onto it and really appreciated it, which is great. Um, and now it's just trying to break through with people that aren't in medicine, and selfishly, I am biased, but I think we made something entertaining that if you are just interested in something that's kind of funny and pull at your heartstrings, that you'll enjoy it too.
well, I mean, it touched it. I kind of want to call it a dramedy
Yeah.
because I mean there were very dramatic parts in it as well as the comedy, and that comedy really hit for us medics in the EMS because we've got that dark sense of humor. What I'd like to see if we get the you can have side characters because as well as I do the club.
Hmm.
You know, you got your fireman friends that Randy would be. Maybe it's not that Randy is always by himself in the ambulance. Maybe he's responding to a call with the fire department. He obviously knows that one police officer. That's
Yeah.
on you, sucker.
Yeah.
But so, and the best line Little Rail had was, ABC's the police work. Ambulance before
Ambulance
cruiser.
before cruiser.
Those are just some awesome. I mean, you encapsulated emergency services in
We
general.
had one line that they didn't that they cut, which I was bummed out about, and it was in that same scene where Rel tells his name's Paige Kennedy, is the actor who plays Taggart, who tells Paige, and he says, "You know why God created paramedics so cops would have heroes and could sleep better at night."
Look, let me tell you something. It never hurt if you got pulled over and you were coming to or from work. And I never worked in my mindset was I want to work about an hour away from home
Hmm.
because I don't want to run into my classmates on the ambulance. I don't want to run into my people. I'm working out of town. Um, but you're up and down the highway. And when you're up and down the highway from time to time, you've been running in that unit, code 3. You've got kind of a heavy foot, and when it's time to go home, by God, I'm ready to get home.
I'm going home.
Yeah, I'm carrying that heavy foot with me, and I've been pulled over. I never got tickets because when they see me sitting there, they roll up on me, and the first thing they see is that blue shirt, the navy epaulets,
Hmm.
and the gold patch on the shoulder. Rob, yeah, man, just slow down. You're killing me.
Yeah.
You know.
One of my absolute favorite stories was getting out of a speeding ticket with a piece of garlic bread. Um, I was in I had that heavy foot and I was going to night. I was working on night shift and I was flying. I absolutely deserved. I should have gone. Uh,
Should have got that ticket.
should have gotten that ticket. In fact, I should have gotten. I probably should have been arrested. And I'm gonna completely change the names and change the location just to keep,
Keep
according
the
to my
innocent.
lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am. It's also nighttime, so it's not dangerous. I live in this area and I am flying. I'm probably doing the better part of 60 and a 35, just trying to get to work. And all of a sudden, the cherries come on.
Rollers.
Yeah. And I've got the radio with me. So and we shared a channel with sheriff's office. And so I start laughing and I recognize the voice. I know the officer that's going to getting ready to pull me over. And so I start giggling because I'm a young, very stupid human being, and I punch it. I go even faster because I also knew his call sign, so I hear it, and all of a sudden I wait, and I'm not pulling over. I'm just going for it, and all of a sudden you hear 10-0, 10-0. I'm in the chase. I pull over real quick, and he calls the chase off, and so he comes up to he's coming up to the car, and he's yelling and cussing, hey, you know how fast you're going, and I go, yeah, why, you want to fight about it? And he starts reaching for his gun, and I go, Phil, relax, it's me. he goes, he looks at me, he goes, Patrick, that you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I have to take you to jail. I says, no, I'm late for work. Here's a piece of garlic bread. I gotta go. I took off. So the best part about that whole story is not the fact that I just dusted him on the side of the road and took off. And this is rural, by the way. This is not, we're
Yeah,
not in
yeah,
the
yeah,
city. So anybody who's listening who's like, he did it through a school zone. It's nighttime and we're in the
yeah,
rural nowhere. Uh, and so he's standing there with a piece of garlic bread. And now he's got to call dispatch, right? Because, they wanted the plate, they wanted everything else.
yeah.
And he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, after this long pause, you
Now
can
he's
just
got to
hear,
figure out what he's going to tell him.
yeah,
He was calling in on a chase. Now, never mind.
yeah. So you can hear the anger in his voice when he's talking to dispatch. And he goes, I let the driver off with a warning. And you hear dispatch come back and go, you did what?
Oh Lord. Oh, that. you know,
I got yelled at my
Randy.
chief because he raised hell, as he should have. He raised hell about me doing that, and I deserved it. I deserved every minute of it. But let me tell you, it's one of my
It's
it'll be on my tombstone. My favorite story.
it's comedy gold. It's comedy
Yeah.
gold. That's got to happen. That's got to happen on the show. I am so pulling for you. Who do I need to say? Hey, y'all need to make this show.
Hey, if
How
you've
do
got
we
an
get that
emotional
done?
support billionaire, that's all I need. With enough money, I can make anything happen.
That's the get a map principle.
Yeah.
Get a map. Given enough time, get
Uh-huh.
and money,
Oh, I like that.
anything's possible. Get a map.
Get a map. Yeah. Yeah. We got it done. We're ready to go. We just need, like I said, money in the studio.
Did you let yours lapse and you went back and challenged it and got it?
Yeah, so right before the movie came out, I wanted it for two reasons. I had let it lapse. I think I expired in 13. I think that's right. Um, I mean, obviously nothing against my license. I just didn't renew it and just let it go. But because but right before the movie came out, I wanted to be able to be more credible, especially as one of the spokespeople for the film, to be able to say like, "Hey, I
Right.
wrote it and I lived it, and oh, by the way, I'm, still want to use." And the other reason why was the LA County Fire Department had opened up its list. And so, yeah, I was like, well, maybe go to work for LA County because they were the ones that were kind enough to help train up our actors. I really liked the firehouse that I went to. I went to about two or three of them. Their culture seemed really great. And so I figured and the way that they run calls is something that I love. Like they do, so the paramedics are on the fire department, and if it's a BLS call, they send it on its way with the BLS crew that's part of the private service. But if it's ALS, the paramedic jumps in the truck and takes care of it, and then
Much
you
like
go
we
back
did
to the
down on the
firehouse.
coast. Yep.
So I had never worked in anything like that. It had always been almost medic rides everything, not quite, but almost. And so for me, I was like, that's great. You only ride the calls that are ALS. And so all of these kind of happy accidents happen at once. And so I figured, okay, fine, I'll challenge the test. And so what you needed in order to get on the list was you had to pass all the fire stuff, which I had done. Like you had to take a written and a physical and, do the, jump up and down and sit ups and all that stuff, the CPAT.
Well, you
Um,
had a 1001 before, didn't you?
I don't know what that is.
The 1001 certification for firefighters. You were already a
Oh,
firefighter.
I was a volunteer. So yeah, I
Okay.
had,
Okay.
but that was, oh geez, like 2000, maybe it was the year 2000, 2000, 2001 was the last time I left the fire service in '03 because that's when I moved to Carolina. Because South
Okay.
Carolina would not recognize my fire credentials, but they recognized my paramedic. So I hadn't been on a fire truck since 2003. But anyway, so I did all the stuff you had to do, like like I said, the physical stuff, took the test, did all the things I had to, and then I just had to get my in or to join LA County to be eligible. You had to get your basic back or your EMT back. So I called the state and I said, "Hey, listen, I was a paramedic in 2013. Here's my old number that's like written on a stone tablet. Can I just get my EMT? Is there a way for me to just get my EMT? I don't need to get my paramedic again." And they go, "No one has ever asked us this before. Hold on." And then they said, "No, there's no way to do that. You have to challenge your paramedic again. Or, I mean, you could go to EMT school and get your EMT." And they were like, "But, or you could just re-get your paramedic." And so I speed ran the paramedic program. I did 72 hours of continuing education, thankfully all online. I will plug Prodigy EMS because they helped me out with that. I did ACLS, PALS, PHTLS, and
And your
then I had to
refresher.
take. I'm sorry.
Your refresher.
Yeah, and then I had to pass registry written in psychomotor. I think I was one of the last people that they still had the psychomotor aspect of the exam. So I took the written, I passed it, and then as soon as I passed it, I had the psychomotor 3 days later, and passed that. And so I had everything I needed in order to get on the list. And one of the things I'm very proud of is at 43 years old, I made the list for LA County Fire. Now I was very low on the list, but I told all my buddies of my old fire department, I was like, "Hey guys, I'm on the list for LA County."
All right. So, are you pulling hitches with them now? Are you working with them from time to
No,
time?
no. I mean, they haven't called my number yet. So, I mean,
Well,
there's
I mean,
probably a couple hundred guys in front of me.
you've got your paramedic, but
I do.
for us to practice in Mississippi, we got our paramedic from the National Registry. But for us to practice in Mississippi, we had to be connected to a med control. For
Mhm.
all the fire departments throughout the state of Mississippi, if you're in EMS on a fire department, UMC out of Jackson is the med control for all the paramedics working. Unless you've got a city like a certain city in a coastal town, let's just say that,
Mhm.
they have their own med control with the same med controls that are answering for the ambulance. So they kind of marry up with what's going on down there on the coast.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not taking care of patients. I just have a card. Like I've done everything I need to. It's technically considered it's not inactive. What's that called? Unaffiliated. So
Okay.
I mean I have everything is up to date, but I'm not working. So if I did, like, let's say I did go to work for, if LA County, if they interviewed me and I passed or whatever, then I would be affiliated with LA County and be operating under their protocols.
Dude, I wouldn't know how to. We didn't have a Lucas. I wouldn't know how to mess with a Lucas.
We had
I
the
could
old
put.
thumpers. I can't imagine it's that much different.
We had thumpers, yeah, but I mean, we didn't use them.
We
They,
were required to. I hated them.
um, we had mass trousers were a go to for us. Mass
Uh,
trousers were great during a full arrest.
I never used it during a full arrest. I've only used it once on a pelvic fracture.
You put mass trousers on a full arrest, you're restricting when you're pumping,
Yeah, yeah,
you're pumping everywhere you need to be pumping.
yeah.
You aren't wasting blood going down to the femoral arteries. Well, there's going to be some pressure, but there's enough pressure on those trousers to keep that blood circulating where you needed them. That was one of my tricks I always did. Now the doctors freaking hated it, man. They
Well, yeah, because as soon as you pull, let's assume you get a pulse back. The minute you pull those off, they're going to drop, and that's it. The pressure's gone.
yeah. But I mean, if you go through it slowly the way you're supposed to and don't just rip them off,
You don't
which
just cut them.
no, That's an $800 mistake. But I mean, I've seen it done. I have seen it done. I can't say I haven't. Yeah, man. I like having you on because it takes me back to my old times, and I think about those calls. One particular shooting that comes to mind. I was an EMT basic at this time, and the EMT basics back in the day, you had a driver on an ambulance and you had an EMT basic, and we had a paramedic covering a great big zone, and he was in a suburban, okay, and he followed the ambulance, and much like the fireman you're talking about, he'd get on the scene and assess. If it was BLS, they'd take it, right,
Hmm.
and he was available for the next call. And we were in a city, based out of a city. So if we were in the city, the fire department paramedics, they had paramedics on the fire department on the rescue trucks. So they were doing that. But he was covering all out in the county. And if you went into the north part of this area, just outside the city limit lines, the fire department wasn't coming out there to you, but it's kind of no man's land. And this was an area of low income folks. And we get the call up there, and it was an unconscious female, was what the call came in as. It was an OD. Surprise, surprise. And we rolled in before law enforcement was on the scene. You know, we just roll in, we go in there and start. And I've got the stethoscope in my ear. I'm trying to get the vitals for the paramedic. And we're in this little, like, apartment kind of complex down in this apartment. And I hear a ruckus. And all of a sudden, I feel I'm getting hit. The paramedic is down here next to me trying to pull me down. I'm pulling the stethoscope out. What? And he's on the radio calling 1099, 1099, 1099, which is send everybody. The world's coming to an end.
Hmm.
And then you hear pop, 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 pop right outside the door of this apartment.
Oh, geez.
Well, it is um, Dr. Feelgood was going to meet the woman of the night, and he had worked out a trade and gave her a shot, and it was more than she was used to, and that was the OD.
Mm.
So it was her boyfriend that was fighting with the pusher,
Mm.
and that's what the shots were. And he was hollering on the radio 1099, and the dispatcher came back and said, "What's the nature of your 1099?" And he just held the microphone out, hearing those
I
pops.
always hated that. Why? I'm calling for help. Just get them here. I'll
Yeah,
explain later.
yeah. You don't you if we say 1099, you don't ask what's going on. You just send the world.
Yeah. That was always my biggest infuriation. Is like, hey, I need sheriff's office and I need them here now. Why? Just send them and I'll tell you when I'm safe.
That's right.
Uh,
Scene safety. That's why.
yeah. Yeah. I've never been shot at, thankfully. And I don't, I'd probably pee myself if I was, but I've been on scene when shots have been fired. So,
Well, neither one of they were both shitty shots. Neither we weren't treating a gunshot wound.
mm,
Of course, by the time the law came up, they had gone, and we're trying to get the patient out and get down to the hospital. Patrick, I appreciate you coming back on, man. I've had you on here for an hour.
yeah, it's been great. I love this show's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's kind of like getting back and telling old stories. And it's
It's
been
like sitting
fun,
around a
especially since,
firehouse.
yeah, it's very much like that. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And then, like I said, you kind of touched on it, but I feel like this work, the work of EMS, whether you've done it for 20 years or whether you just getting started, like one of these guys I'm mentoring over here, it's I still believe to this day it's one of the most noble professions that's out there. Like you said, like we go in, we don't know what we're going to face. You go in, you
Nope.
fix it, and you bring them to the hospital. You do the best you can, and get them on their way because. Uh, one of the things I tell everybody is no one calls 911 because they're having a great day, right? The fact
No,
that
absolutely
there's
not.
people that are willing and able and capable to go in and at least assess and do their level best, take care of you, I think is a testament to the way people take care of people. And that's to me is one of the most important things.
Well, there's one thing that you did at the end of the movie that I that really struck me. And I think that everybody that watches this podcast has probably seen this movie by now. So I'm at first I told you no spoilers because I'm wanting people to go get it at Amazon. You said, "Oh yeah, me too." but one of the things that you said is what he said at the end is, you know, I really don't feel alive till you're almost dying. Something of that
Yeah.
sort.
I'm no hero, but I only feel alive when you're about to die.
That's right. That's right. So, look, I appreciate you coming on. Folks, I appreciate y'all hanging on as long as you have. Please come back and see us again. We'll probably have another one of these episodes up in a month. Y'all take care and keep getting 10-8.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks.